This is Get UNSTUCK Radio episode 17. Get your sleep right with Dr. Mazen Baisa. Welcome to Get UNSTUCK Radio, the place to brainstorm with you on business and life strategy. To get unstuck with system, automation, and delegation. And also to get clarity for sustainable business and lifestyle. I'm your host, Mutita Panmook. Let's get unstuck. Hi everyone, so today I'm with my dear friend. We met before in person in San Diego, California, and today he become my guest. Let helps me welcome Dr. Mazen Baisa, founder and CEO of UNSTUCK Sleep Improvement Company. Thank you for joining us today, Mazen.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here today, and I'm glad to have this discussion with you, Mutita.
Yeah, I mean, we have been talking since last year that I really want to interview him because I know sleeping is one of my weakness, to be honest. And I have been struggling with it for like years. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's really amazing, right? Like for us as entrepreneurs and achievers and business professionals, a lot of time is like sleeping is one of those activities that it gets to be in the background there. It is not really a high level activity that we look at into our day. And hey, I used to be there myself too. I mean, for many years, really, I kind of treated the sleep as one of those things that if I could eliminate it of my life would be so much more productive and I could do a lot more things. And what I didn't realize then, and I've actually paid for it in heavy costs in my own health and also really in my own business, is that sleep is one of the most important activities that we could do as entrepreneurs and business professionals. And we'll talk a lot more about that today, and I'll share exactly why that is. But for me personally, it was a game changer, because before I realized the importance of sleep, my balance sheet was going up, right? I mean, I actually made good money. There's a lot of good things happen in the business, but my personal balance sheet was out of balance and everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because sleep is really the one thing that affects our mood. It affects our communication with others. It affects our productivity and how much can we crunch in a short period of time rather than working longer and actually reducing our productivity because we're not focused or we're not really kind of making the best decisions. And that's why now I realize why Jeff Bezos, the CEO of the biggest and most wealthiest company in the world, look at his sleep very differently, right? He sleeps his 7 to 8 hours, and he says, like, if I could sleep better and make better decisions, I could run a better company.
Yeah, so let's go back. How this thing become your passion then? Like, what is the transition for you?
Yeah. So the transition for me is here. For many years, I really kind of looked at sleep as something that is for the weak. I'll sleep when I'm dead, right? Like I could just I could just keep working when I make it. When I get there, I could sleep and prioritize sleep. And really that affected me in several ways, right? Like I've gained probably like 30 to 40 pounds in that period of time. I've had so many relationships that got messed up in my life.
Mm-hmm.
That time. And also really I've worked so hard and I felt I was grinding and I was getting some results, but it's always kind of like, why is that other person is getting better results than I am, right? And until one day I get my doctor call, and it was one of those kind of wake up moments, right? Like you get a doctor call and it's like, hey, Mazen, your blood sugar, you're in your early 30s and your blood sugar is out of control. Your blood pressure is also high. Your cholesterol levels are in the higher end and your liver enzymes are elevated. You got to do something. Otherwise, I'm going to put you on medications, even though you're young. And that was kind of one of those starting wake up calls. And I was working as a pharmacist at that time. And I was like, wow, it's I'm a pharmacist. I'm giving medications and selling medications to people every day. And it seems like I'm going to need to take them. So I started to make changes. I was like, oh, great. I'm going to start to sleep better. I'm going to start to work out better. I'm going to start to eat better. You go through those kind of things where you feel like, all right, this is it. I got to make the change. And guess what? I did that for a couple of weeks. And then I go back into my regular, normal way I was operating, right? Until really like a year after, a friend of mine, he's really one of those people that him and I used to compete with each other. And we used to tell each other, like, all right, let's see who sleeps less and could get the most emails at night. Or like, let's see who could actually get, like the most amount of time without sleeping and get as much work done, or have the highest, numbers of nights without sleeping. I mean, that kind of conversation was really what goes in between us. And I remember to this day, like I was still working actually in one of my pharmacies, and I get the call in my phone, and I actually had to go to voicemail, and I check it later in the evening while I'm checking my emails. And it's his wife. He's like, "Hey, Mazen, where are you? Sal had a heart attack. We're all here at the hospital. Where are you? Come in right now." So, that day I get into my car, I go in to the hospital, and I walk through, and I hear the beep, 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 and I'm thinking like it's my phone initially, and I look, and it's not my phone. It's actually the heart monitors that just as I'm walking through, and I walk into this door, and I see my friend Sal laying down on the floor, or like on the bed, tubes tethered all over his head and like his nose, and just he's obviously out, knocked out, and his wife is there, his kids are there, and it was one of those moments that are like, wow, and then his wife just kind of stands up and taps me. He's like, "How did all this happen to us?" I was like, I didn't know what to tell her. But inside me, I knew how all that happened to him, right? Because it was happening to me too. And that was the moment when I got home after that day, and I kind of told my wife the story. And I really told her, like, you know what? I am not going to have you hopefully go through this because of my own actions. And a big part of that for me was really sleep, because it is an area I've seen in so many other professionals. And that's why when you told me, Mazen, I'd like to talk with you, it's like, this is great, because that's the message I like to share with others. Sleep doesn't take away from your life. Sleep is actually what gives you more life.
So. Oh, wow. That's good. Yeah. I mean, sleep gives you more life. I mean, I totally agree, because I have been struggling about that for in the past, let's say 3 years at least, that it depends on the mood and the month and the week and so on, like many factors involved, and it's crazy. Even though I have to track myself, the nutrition, the workout timing, like when I have my last coffee, like everything, and it's overwhelmed me. I mean, yeah, I really like the slogan that you gave me. When you sleep better, you are a better thinker, a better decision maker, a better leader, a better spouse, a better parents, and a better friends. I mean, that's everything, right? At the end of the day, that's how we want.
That is, I totally agree. And that's why really for me with UMAXA, the company that I founded, my whole big focus, frankly, when I started UMAXA, I wasn't focusing on sleep fully. I was kind of focused on how can we improve life for entrepreneurs and unlock the best in them by having healthy habits. So we're talking about nutrition, talking about exercise, talking about breathing, about being more productive generally. But then I realized, like, one of the common questions kept coming is like, Mazen, what is the one thing? I'm a busy person. I got a lot of things going on. I'm traveling. I give clients. I deal with different deals. There's a lot of pressures in my life. If there's one thing I could start to improve in my life that could really improve a lot of other things in my life, because we all want the highest return on investment, right? What is that one thing? So that was kind of the genesis of some of that questions. Like, what is that one thing that an entrepreneur, a busy professional, a CEO level person could really focus on that will have a ripple effect and everything else into their life, right? And sleep was that one thing, because you're right. Like, when we sleep better, we're better thinkers, better decision makers, better spouses, better friends, better workers, better leaders. And we've seen it. I don't know about you, Mutita, but I've seen it when in the past when I used to have bosses, I could tell the day that my boss did not sleep well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. And it's affect the whole career. I mean, the whole company on that day. Like the boss also somehow moody on that day. Maybe they lack of sleep something. And yeah, it's affect the way they assign other stuff. Yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's in leadership. We call it like the contagion effect, right? Like there's almost like a contagion. We're talking about contagion now in the life of the coronavirus and everything happening. But that's also happens when with our mood and our habits. It's almost like a secondhand stress that gets passed on, like a secondhand smoking. Stress is also have a secondhand. When we don't sleep well, that gets actually it shows up in our life, either with our families, with our spouses, with our kids, and obviously with our employees or with our co-workers.
So if we can start everything from scratch, what should we look at to improve our sleep quality then?
Oh, that's a deep question. So here's if we're gonna go back from scratch, right? For any person, and sleep is a personalized experience. I have to really say that in advance, right? And that's why I'm not a big proponent of like just here's one thing you could do to improve your sleep, or like couple things that you could, because sleep is personal. I mean, every person deals with different stressors in their life, different motivators in their life, right? Different relationships, different environment that they sleep in. And also different conditions maybe they're dealing with. They may have some sickness or disease or something that kind of creates difference in their sleep quality and the sleep depth. But like overall, I would say if we're going to start from scratch, like I normally start with what we say, prioritize your sleep. Because if our sleep identity is kind of how I used to have before. I used to look at sleep as just an extra thing I got to do. It's a productivity thief that is taken away from my productivity or my ability to make money. It's going to be very hard for us to see the value of sleep, right? So once we understand like sleep is a priority, and obviously there's no hidden knowledge now that sleep is very important for mood, for productivity, for functioning, right? It is more and more studies right now showing how important it is for heart health, for our immunity. And we're obviously all now dealing with the coronavirus and everything. And maybe we could get into that and the importance of sleep for immunity and strengthening of the immune system. But every aspect in our body is affected by our sleep quality and our sleep quantity and consistency. So I would say, yes, number one is prioritizing sleep. If there's anything a person could do, I would start to assess your sleep identity and what's your relationship with sleep. How do you look at sleep?
So the perspective toward sleeping, and also, I think this is another question that people have been like having argument on, how long they have to sleep and how does it feel actually that could say that I have had a good sleep,
Yeah. Another good question. Man, you're asking a lot of questions, Mutita, there. So,
I'm interviewer.
But you're right. That is actually a very common question, right? Like how many hours should the ideal amount of sleep would be? And again, that's why I said sleep is personalized experience, because although a lot of the kind of media out there suggests that 7 to 8 hours of sleep is kind of like the ideal sleep window. But the reality is actually what true scientific sleep research shows, that it is a very personal experience. Some people, they do very well with the 6 to 7, or 8 hours. Some need a little more, some need a little less. But when it comes to sleep, I look at it as almost like there's like a sleep trifecta, right? Like quantity is one thing. And that is actually easy to figure. That is not usually the most difficult thing for people, because once they realize the priority of the sleep or prioritize sleep, they're able to see what's the number of quantity of hours they need to sleep better. And there's a lot of, a couple tools I'll tell you what a person could do to determine what's best for them in that sense of number of hours. But that's one thing. Quantity is like number one. Number two is quality, right? Because some people, sometimes they don't understand that, yes, you may sleep. I've had this actually 2 weeks ago. I was talking to a friend of mine. He's like, man, like, I'm at home, right? So with this, with the quarantine and the self, kind of social distancing and everything else, like I've actually been sleeping like 8-9 hours, but man, like I still don't feel very well. It's like, I don't know if maybe I'm wasting my time. And I was like, that's not true, because maybe you're not actually, yes, you're now getting some maybe appropriate quantity, but your quality of sleep still not the best, and it's still very fragmented. So quantity, quality, and the third component we normally look at is consistency, right? If a person is not consistent with their sleep actually patterns suffer, and that creates a lot of kind of inappropriate and ineffective and inefficient sleep processes for them, and they don't get the best benefits. That's why we always, talk about actually consistency as being a very, very critical component of the whole sleep, the sleep pattern, and why that is important.
So you mean the part of consistency you mean is related to your daily routine, like for example, what time you go to bed, what time you wake up in general, that is the consistency, right?
Yes, that is definitely part of the consistency. There's two pieces to consistency. Number one, it's like, we say like really the sleep time consistency, which is, yes, that like when do you go to bed and when do you wake up in the morning, right? And that is kind of like the primary part of consistency. And actually waking up in the morning is even more important when it comes to the consistency of it than when you go to bed. They're both important, but so if a question one time is like, okay, what becomes more important? Like if I wake up more consistently or if I go to bed more consistently? The answer is we need both. That's actually better. And there's reasons why our circadian rhythm, and there's like a lot of science behind that and how our brain function. But waking up particularly becomes even more important than when you go to sleep when it comes to consistency, because that's what actually sets the internal clock in the body to kind of operate for the rest of the day, And also that what helps to build the sleep pressure. We call it the sleep pressure or sleep tension. And that's why some people, for example, they feel like, when I go to bed, I'm just like, my eye keeps open. I keep tossing and turning, and I'm tired, but like I'm not able to sleep because a lot of time they haven't built enough sleep pressure and sleep tension. Especially if they're not suffering from like a medical condition, right? I mean, if this is just a matter of just more behavioral. But yeah, that's like one thing is really the sleep timing. So we talked about like the morning and when do you wake up, and then the evening when do you go to sleep. The other part of sleep consistency is actually ritualizing the sleep and evening routine. And that is important also to be consistent with that, because the more rituals or the more consistent we are with our rituals, not that you have to have so many rituals, but the more consistent we are with our evening routine rituals before sleep, the better our sleep consistency becomes. Like, for example, a very small sleep ritual I think everybody should do, especially in this time right now where we're home locked up and kind of almost we lose track of time, right? Like, is it morning? Is it night? Am I working? Am I actually kind of out doing something? It's important to actually really kind of activate one ritual for sleep, which is to set up a sleep alarm. Like, we have a wake up alarm. I recommend everybody to set up a 1 hour sleep alarm before their time to go to sleep. An hour before that, set up an alarm that you could call it your sleep mode alarm. You could call it your sleep zone alarm, because what this allows you to do is you start to think about, all right, you know what? This is now my alarm to enter into my sleep mode. And I need to start to do certain activities that allow my brain and my body to shift down so I could sleep better and be more consistent with my sleep.
I feel like I have sleeping procrastination.
Yeah.
I do have the do not disturb time, like set up that this is gonna be my deadline, that I have to shut down everything and go back to bed. I can't.
Yeah.
I feel like it's there, because like Apple is all linked, right? When it's turned to the do not disturb mode, it's gonna show everywhere here, like on my laptop, on my phone, everything. I wouldn't see anything already, but I still like at the back of my brain, I haven't finished my thing yet today, and I cannot go to sleep. And what happened is that it's delay my sleepy time. Like, even though I'm in bed, I cannot like knock out just yet. Like, I cannot switch off.
Yeah. That's a very, very good question and observation about what you do, because we all actually deal with some level of that, right? And it is really interesting too, because like 1 in 3 Americans deal with sleep problems, and almost like 1 billion people worldwide deal with sleep problem or have issues usually, with their sleep, right? So kind of what you mentioned here is like, yeah, my mind doesn't turn off, right? Or like, I feel like, yeah, I'm ready to sleep. I know I need to sleep, but my mind doesn't turn off. So here's one thing I've actually been kind of exploring with, and I've told that to a few of my clients. A lot of us, especially achievers and busy professionals, our mind is always moving. It's always moving. There's always something going on. We're always thinking, creating, solving problems, right? Doing different things. And our mind, when it comes to sleep particularly, does not work like a car engine. We cannot just turn it off and it just turns off. It's more like a jet engine, that it requires to be shifted down and really almost like kind of wind down slowly until it actually starts to get into the frequency where it allows it to just calm down and sleep, right? So yes, a lot of it's like something like, yeah, I'm having like a lot of thoughts at night. I'm in bed, but I just can't sleep. And a lot of it is because we did not do, again, these rituals, the sleep mode rituals that actually really allows our brain to kind of go from like the fast moving like a jet, right, into like a little bit of a shift down and winding down, and really shift it into a place where like now sleep is more invited rather than being forced. Because I think, a big mistake a lot of people make, especially people with insomnia, is like we try to force sleep, right? We try to force it, like, it's like, man, I couldn't sleep, I'm gonna try to sleep more, and like we try to force it, and we get anxious, and we get then kind of worry, and like we start to realize like, man, if I don't sleep, how am I gonna wake up tomorrow? How am I gonna perform? And all these thoughts just keep feeding each other. The reality is sleep cannot be forced. Sleep needs to be seduced.
So in that case, so one of my doctors, so I also one of the person who went to see doctors, and I got like many medication like previously until I stopped because it doesn't help me at all. They told me that if I'm not sleepy, just don't sleep.
Yeah. So obviously, again,
like, what?
Yeah. It's like, it's kind of, and did they explain to you why? Why they?
Because my bed is just at the back of me all the time. I work from home. Like either I changed my country and so on, I still in this container. And the problem that I face is to get out there, this door. Especially this time, I couldn't go out as often as I can. So that is my somehow mental block that they told me. And I totally understand. You know, I turned back, here's my bed. But I didn't feel sleep enough to like go there. You know?
Go there, yeah. So that is actually interesting. And again, obviously, if someone is taking medications or anything like that, I'm, you know, like there's a lot that I you know, we talk about, you know, in our sleep coaching programs with that. Although medications, if they're prescribed, that I do recommend, you know, people not stop it unless if they talk to their, you know, their healthcare provider or have a discussion with them. But overall, you know, when it comes to what you described earlier, right, which is, they told me maybe not to go to sleep. That is actually a technique we use in cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's called CBTI, which is really, we call it sleep restriction, where you would actually restrict the number of hours you're sleeping to a shorter window. So that way, number one, to build what we call the sleep pressure. Remember, like we talked, like the more sleep pressure you build in your system, the more you end up actually need to sleep, because your body just like, that's it, I have to sleep right now, right? And in fact, I'll tell you why caffeine is dangerous, especially later in the evening, because it messes up with the sleep pressure thing that we're talking about right now.
Just water.
That's great. Yes. Drink as much of that as you desire. But you know, the other piece of it too, sorry, here, the other piece of this is, can you still hear me? The other piece of this, actually, when we come to sleep restriction.
Always there.
Oh, let's see here. Actually, you said Apple phone is all connected. It's all connected to my computer, so it's off of my phone, but it's coming on my computer. Let me just let me shut it down here. Let's see.
Oh, why it's happened? That's strange. It's okay.
Well, yeah, it's actually off of my phone, but it's connected to my computer, so it kept ringing on my computer.
Ah, right. I know.
Yeah, Apple connectivity issues. But going back into the sleep pressure and kind of the question that you asked about sleep, you know, like they told me to sleep less. Yes, there is a technique there is called sleep restriction, which is really restricting the number of hours a person sleep for a certain period of time until they kind of get conditioned. Sometimes we call it sleep reconditioning. You're basically reconditioning also your sleep habits to that smaller window. It's very frustrating for a lot of people. You're like, man, like what do you mean I gotta sleep less hours, or like I gotta sleep between, you know, this hour and this hour, right? But that is part of almost like kind of creating that type of a sleep drive, so the person feel like, okay, you know what, I'm actually able to sleep easier. It's part of the sleep therapy management.
Seems like they try to prevent me feeling morning drowsiness and the napping during the day.
Yeah.
So because of that, I have to force myself, according to the sun clock, right, to sleep at the normal time like other people. Because as I told you earlier, this is so funny. I just feel so guilty. I ate the whole quart. Well, it's not that much. It's like 480 milliliters of chocolate chip ice cream after I haven't had any dairy products for like over a year. And I was like knocked out 12 hours. And I went to bed 4 a.m. and like until 12 p.m. plus on the other day, if you know what I mean. So that's bad. That's like ruin everything already. But that's how bad my sleep habits is.
No. And now you're eating for your sleep, right? You know.
So I just like, I'm not gonna eat ice cream anymore. No, not for now.
You know, it's actually interesting you mentioning the eating and all this, because like one of the common things I've also been getting these days, especially with all the stressors and things going on in the world, is that really the sleep habit is affecting our eating habits, right? A lot of people are noticing that I'm eating a lot more ice cream and eating a lot more cookies. I'm eating, like badly. And sleep, it affects our eating habits significantly, because you know, when we don't sleep well, what happens is we have two hormones particularly, and two transmitters in our bodies that change. Number one, our satiety hormone, it's called leptin, goes down, right? So that means we don't get satisfied very easily. And then our hunger hormone, it's called ghrelin, goes up. So now you have like two forces working against you. And that's why it's so easy then to just go to the bottom of the chips and you almost like want to lick the chips bag, or like you could eat like a whole sleeve of cookies or a whole tub of ice cream when we don't also sleep very well, because everything else from our eating habits and our eating patterns is actually also disrupted.
Oh, so do we have any recommendation on that? I bet there would be many people out there who is listening right now having the same problem as me. Come on. I mean, this is not
Yeah.
good.
It is very, it's really challenging. Now, I think for you, Mutita, it's kind of interesting because you said you slept for 12 hours straight, right?
But so luckily that I decided to bought Oura. No sponsor attached though, but this is like totally personal investment because I discovered that
your sleep, the Oura Ring to track your sleep, right?
Yeah, so I track every single day. So that's why I know how long. Because if not, I would be able only to track like waking up time, going back to bed or something. But I see more in the graph. It shows like in details. So what I discovered is that my deep sleep very consistent, like 2 hours. So that's why I didn't feel that much exhausted waking up. I think like even though I sleep only 3 hours, the 2 hours are already my deep sleep because I don't dream, like totally knock off when I sleep.
I see.
Yeah, but I also discovered that when other factors that I couldn't control happening and affect my life, it delays my bedtime.
Yeah.
With my own excuse also. But for example, I ate this chocolate ice cream. It just happened. So just put that out there. Before that, I able to sleep at 11 p.m. But then after I ate that on that day, I start to go to sleep at 4 a.m. I couldn't wake up.
Got it. So you actually feel like some of the, what you did before you slept, it affected really your quality of sleep for that same night, right? And that is actually very common, especially when it comes with food. That's why sleep and food are very, very well connected, right? And it's interesting you're saying like how you ate the chocolate and then you couldn't actually fall asleep and you end up sleeping then later. And that could be for multiple reasons. Number one, chocolate actually has some caffeine. I don't know what kind of chocolate,
Really? Just milk chocolate. It's just silly chocolate pie. Just like very silly one, It's like, I want some sweet in my room.
I mean, maybe and maybe not, right? Because some chocolate has more caffeine than others. I mean, it's usually not that significant. But here's the significant part aside from caffeine is really the sugar. So what happens is when you flood the system, especially before going to sleep, with so much sugar, the sugar actually creates that kind of like hyper energy, right? Like you get that peak of energy because there's just, you got the sugar going on, and then we get to the trough, right? Like we have like that roller coaster start to happen. And this is the worst that you want to do just an hour or two before going to sleep, because you're creating this roller coaster of sugar spike and drop that actually makes your body get into what we call the fight or flight response, actually get more triggered, right? So it's very important really when it comes to sleep, especially for high quality sleep, is not to eat heavy sugar at night, because it triggers the sugar response, which then triggers the nervous system to actually release like a fight or flight kind of mechanisms. And the reality is, like, when we're in a fight or flight response, let it be food, or let it be thoughts, or let it be just sleep procrastination because maybe we're watching something scary on Netflix, right? As our sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight response, get triggered, we can't sleep very well, because, and actually that's a way that your body's trying to protect you, because your body doesn't know it doesn't know that it's like Netflix, or it doesn't know it's a thought, or it doesn't know just an argument that you had with somebody. It thinks it's a big bear running after you. So it's not going to let you go to sleep with a big bear coming after you, right? That's just almost like primal instincts. So it's so important that to actually give our nervous system the comfort for that. Remember, like, and as I set up the alarm, the sleep mode and alarm an hour before, especially in this time where there's a lot of stressors going on, a lot of bad news, a lot of Facebook things happening that like doesn't calm us down, it triggers us more, right? To set up that, because you want to give your system, the nervous system, that it's not a time now to actually get into fear and stimulation. It's time to calm down and wind down and actually kind of shift down. And food is an important component.
Yeah. So let's touch base on our trendy topic a little bit, coronavirus. People
Yes.
are already at home, like me. I'm in the self-container, like living in the cube right now. I mean, how they should like organize their day. And as you mentioned, we don't even know the day and night, to be honest, especially in the UK. It's not much
Right.
sunshine over here. Yeah, I mean, any recommendation to like keep being healthy and improve their sleeping quality along the way as this thing happening?
Yeah. Surely there's a lot a person could do, and I'm going to actually mention almost just the very elemental one a person could really do to to set up their day, because really how we approach our day, it affects actually how we sleep at night. And a lot of time, again, that's kind of where a misconception happens. We think just we go to sleep, we just put our head in the bed and we're going to sleep, right? It doesn't work this way. There's a lot goes before that, even from the time we wake up in the morning, that affects our sleep quality at night, and one of those important components that any person, especially right now, that is working from home or dealing, from kind of a dark environment, and I get it, we can't be outside as much because of the coronavirus and the quarantine and all that, but we all have, the opportunity, if we can, to go out and get exposure to sunlight as early as we can. So usually within that first hour of sleep, of waking up, I recommend everybody to either try to get 10 to 20 minutes of sunlight exposure directly. If you can, go out. If you can't, open the window and look outside of the window, just to the outside for about 10 to 20 minutes. Because what that sunlight allows the body to do, it is one of the most important cues for our internal clock, because we have a clock in our brain. It's called the it's a very important piece of that clock to actually work. It's for the sunlight to activate it, right? And when we do that, we're able to also stimulate the release of serotonin, which is actually a hormone that helps with the good feel and the happy hormone, and that is very important for our days, especially right now when we're dealing with so much stressors and bad news and information. But the interesting part about serotonin, that it actually gets converted into melatonin in our body too. And melatonin, as we know, is our sleep hormone, right? That we want more of that during the night. Yeah. So how do we do more of that? Is sunlight in the morning is very, very important, basically, to syncing up the circadian rhythm, syncing up that sleep rhythm for the night, is the exposure into sunlight, and actually helping with the release of good hormones and happy hormones and such. And it's important not to wear the sunshades, because I've had a few people sometimes like, oh great, I'm in the sunlight, but they would wear my glasses, for example, actually gets dark in the sunlight, right? So I normally would have to take it if I'm outside, because it's important not to actually put the shades on at that time of the day when we're trying to get exposure.
So we have to actually just go out there and like get some vitamin D, like they call it, like when we were in school. You have to get vitamin D in the morning before 8 a.m.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I mean, vitamin D is one thing, but actually just the direct sunlight exposure, activates that part of the brain, the internal clock. It's called, scientifically we call it a suprachiasmatic nucleus. It's the SCN from a scientific.
That sounds very fancy.
Yeah, it sounds pretty complicated. I was trying not to say it before, but just now that's what it is. And the two biggest cues for the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or this internal clock in our brain, which activates many other clocks in our body, is sun and food. So we always say two big important things to regulate in your day in the morning to have better quality sleep in the evening is exposure to sunlight. And then if you're not doing intermittent fasting or special fasting protocol, then actually eat some food.
See? Seems like I have to organize everything in my life right now. Oh my God.
Yes. Because interestingly too, Mutita, did you although we have this internal clock in our brain, our body also have different clocks, and it's called in science peripheral clocks. So our stomach has its own clock, our liver has its own clock, our heart has its own clock. And that's why eating, especially in the morning, again, if the person is not doing intermittent fasting, actually helps to regulate these peripheral clocks, so it actually allows us to function better through our day.
Right. I mean, I did sometimes if I'm not lazy. So after 12, I will start eating. That's when I can sleep normal. But if I just wake up at 12, so I'm going to do that the first thing. So I'm going to eat. Because if not, it's going to be even later. And things gonna be totally messed up following.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one big thing when it comes to what can we do in the morning time to improve our sleep quality at night. Sunlight, eating early, in the day also actually helps with that. And then number three, a big component is really also exercising, right? That is very important for actually helping with the syncing up the circadian rhythm, so we could have better quality sleep and better timing, is to also exercise. Because what exercise does, especially earlier in the day, it actually allows the body to increase, that sleep pressure and the sleep tension. So you actually, by the time the evening comes, you're already tired and you're ready to enter into a better sleep zone.
Yeah, I do exercise in like first thing that I wake up as well. Because if not, I couldn't feel totally awake. Like I just did it. First thing, get up, do it. Yeah.
Yes.
So tell us more about, in case anyone want to work with you, how your program can help them from A to B then.
Yeah, sure. I would love to. So, like we offer a lot of free resources on our websites and our blog. We have a blog. It's called blog.umaxa.com. And I'm sure you could probably put the link note in the show notes. Yeah. But blog.umaxa.com. We have several free articles there. There's great resources to actually help with sleep, to help with kind of like, the racing thoughts that come sometimes for a lot of people, how to improve sleep with very simple strategies. That is available for a lot of people there. Now, the other, part I normally say when it comes to sleep, because it's very individualized, I say just as we always like to have, if we're going to improve our body, we hire a personal trainer. If we're going to improve our business, we hire a business coach. And if we're going to improve our, relationships, we may hire a relationship coach. It's important to actually, if sleep is a priority, which should be for everybody, you should consider getting a sleep coach. And that's really part of what I could help most people with, is really to coach them on their sleep individually and creating what we call the ABCs of sleep coaching, right? Number one, accountability, because you said you procrastinate with your sleep.
Oh yeah.
Right?
I mean, I have many excuses on that.
Exactly. So like as a sleep coach, we hold our individuals accountable, not by force, right? Because no one could actually do it by force, but really by encouragement and by providing the right tools and the right processes to allow that person to be more accountable for the sleep and the impact of it in their life. The other part of the ABCs of sleep coaching is B, which is everything I do personally, being a pharmacist, being a guy that loves science. Sometimes some of my friends call me just a geek when it comes to science and sleep science, is based on expertise and based on science. There's so much out there right now. If someone goes and Google sleep or sleep improving or how do I sleep better, so many articles, so many listicles, so many blogs, so many videos. What do you believe? What is not true? What is true? It gets overwhelming, right? And that is kind of my job, to make sure that I make that very simple to the people I work with, or anybody that really needs my help and becomes part of our network or even part of our email system that we send weekly emails to people too, even if they just join in our website for free, is to give them these tools to allow them to actually have access to the tools that are based on science, based on research, and based on expertise. And number three is really customized and personalized planning. I think a coach is, when there's a coach is helping the individual personally, is able to really understand what are the issues they're dealing with, because we're all dealing with different things, right? You mentioned, if I did not talk to you, I would have not known what you're dealing with right now. Like, what are the challenges or what are the issues that are coming? And it also changes from time to time, right? What you're dealing with right now is different than what you dealt with maybe 6 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if you're the kind of person that travels or moves, or there's a lot of things happening in life, there's even more changes and more challenges a person could deal with. So that kind of an area we support the person with, is to really make sure that we have a customized, personalized plan that really works for them and that allows them to get the results they want. Because sleep is a skill. That's the bottom line of it. And the more we could improve on that skill, the more better life we could live.
And you told me also that you have a team working with you.
Yes.
How is your company policy to support your team members to have a better sleep quality so that they can perform better?
Yeah, that's I guess it's a question I could have you ask our team. But they'll tell you the truth. But the reality is, because we do value sleep, and it is actually something I realized that if, for me as the founder of the business or the leader, do not show and lead by example, it's kind of like hard to expect that from other people, right? So in our, for our team, yeah, we do value sleep and we do prioritize it. We do normally, kind of recommend our team, and actually we, even in some cases, we would put some policies in place where like no emails, like past a certain part of the day. I personally even stop sending emails, usually like in my case by 10 o'clock or 10:30, I stop, because like I normally leave my phone an hour away before. So it's kind of important as actually a leader of any company to set up the right expectation for the team, because I used to deal this with before, and I've seen it, where the leader might be on email at 11 or 1 a.m. and then the team member feels like, in order for me to show up as a good employee, I gotta just be on and respond to that, right? That's why actually some of the best companies right now, they're starting to modify their policies and tell their leaders not to send emails very, very late in the evening, for example, unless it was really something, urgent, and there's a mechanism for controlling that process. Some companies are even shutting down their servers after a certain part of the day. Our team is small, so we're able to actually control just the interactions by just not sending it post time. But yeah, and then we offer our team obviously a lot of resources and support to definitely help them and help their family with sleep too.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, everyone who listening this is involved everything, and you still have to sleep. You cannot deny not sleeping, and you should prioritize that. Like myself, for example, at the time that I could sleep well, hopefully after tonight onwards, I can perform a lot well, and I finish off my to-do list, to be done list, let's say, and that's make me feel great, because small wins, right? We celebrate that, and we have a better sleep because we have no burden like getting down on the pillow and then just like have a peaceful night. So in case anyone want to work with you, how can they reach out to you then?
Yeah, right now they could basically on our website. It's umaxa.com. We actually also have those free resources that I mentioned. We have even like a PDF. If they put their email, they could get that downloaded for free, and then they'll be on our system. We could send them weekly emails. If they want to also work with me one-on-one, it's our information is also there. We also have a webinar that is, I kind of maybe shared with you like few pieces of what we share in this webinar, but we go into so much depth about how to improve sleep, how to deal actually with sleep challenges. Because, with sleep is not just going to sleep, but staying asleep is another question for a lot of people. It's like, yeah, I'm able to go to sleep, but then I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't go to sleep. Or I wake up in the middle of the night and my mind start to get into my day, and then like I keep looking at the alarm clock, right? And some people like, yeah, I sleep, but I'm not waking up refreshed and restored and restful.
All right.
So we address all these things and like tips and things and what people could do during the webinar. And that webinar is also on our website that they could register for it and actually attend it.
I'm definitely going to check that out. I mean, Thank you so much for today, Mazen.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And again, we're going to have, I know, some of the stuff there in the show notes, and I'm glad to be here. And I wish you a better sleep and a wonderful evening for whenever this evening hits for you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Get UNSTUCK Radio. If you enjoy the show, make sure you subscribe so you automatically get new show every week. I would love to if you left us the review. If you want to get unstuck, check my 5-step entrepreneur freedom formula for scaling your business without sacrificing your lifestyle at worldwideweb.extraordinarylybymutita.com/freedom. Speak then.